The federal courtroom was taut as a bowstring when Pam Bondi, U.S. Attorney General, strode in as the lead prosecutor. She was spearheading the case against Hawk Enterprises, a criminal drug trafficking syndicate accused of causing thousands of deaths and bribing officials. At the judge's bench, John Grayson rapped his gavel. "All rise," the bailiff commanded. Everyone stood except Bondi. She remained still, arms crossed, eyes locked on Grayson. "I don't stand for those who sell justice," she said, her voice slicing through the silent air like a blade before diving into the story. "Comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories." The courtroom erupted. Lawyers whispered in panic, spectators gaped, and media cameras swung straight to Bondi. Grayson slammed his gavel harder, his face purple with rage. "Miss Bondi, you are in contempt of this court," he bellowed. Bondi didn't flinch. "I'm in contempt of corruption," she retorted. Cool, but defiant boos and applause clashed, turning the trial into a battlefield. A former Florida prosecutor and now head of the Justice Department, Bondi had sworn to dismantle Hawk Enterprises. She suspected Grayson was taking money from the syndicate to shield them, and she was here to expose the truth. Grayson gripped his gavel, eyes blazing. "You'll pay for this," he growled, his voice trembling with fury. Bondi smirked, her gaze fearless. Pam Bondi was no stranger to legal wars. Before leading the Justice Department, she'd been a prosecutor in Florida, renowned for tackling drug crime and corruption cases. There, she'd seen families shattered by fentanyl, the deadly drug flooding the streets. With her signature blonde hair and unrelenting stare, Bondi had vowed to take down those responsible. As Florida's Attorney General, she'd faced off against big corporations, unafraid to clash with the powerful. That experience led the president to tap her as head of the Justice Department, tasked with cleaning the system from the inside out. Then came Hawk Enterprises. It wasn't just a company, it was a transnational criminal empire hiding behind a veneer of legitimate business. Under Bondi's leadership, the investigation had tracked them for months. They uncovered that Hawk didn't just traffic drugs, they bribed officials from local cops to high-ranking politicians to keep their network intact. Fentanyl shipments from Hawk had killed thousands across America, and Bondi was determined to end it. She called it a war for justice, not just for the law, but for the innocent victims. But it wasn't simple. When the case hit federal court, Bondi spotted a major snag: Judge John Grayson. He wasn't a stranger in judicial circles, a veteran judge with a respectable facade, but Bondi didn't buy it. She held a fuzzy recording obtained from an anonymous source in the Justice Department. In it, a voice identical to Grayson's discussed a payment from someone claiming to represent Hawk Enterprises. Though the audio wasn't clear, it planted enough doubt in Bondi's mind. She ordered her investigators to dig deeper, but evidence was still scarce, and Grayson knew how to cover his tracks. Today, stepping into the courtroom, Bondi wasn't just representing the prosecution to indict Hawk Enterprises, she was set on unmasking Grayson. She believed he'd been bought to ignore evidence, maybe delay the trial or dismiss charges. For Bondi, rising for Grayson wasn't just etiquette, it was endorsing a system she'd sworn to dismantle. "If I bow to him, I bow to corruption," she told her aide in a closed-door meeting before the trial. The courtroom buzz hadn't died down as Pam Bondi stood there, unmoving, eyes fixed on John Grayson. Her declaration, "I don't stand for those who sell justice," still echoed, a bomb detonating in the crowd. Cameras panned between her and Grayson, spectators murmured, and Hawk Enterprises lawyers huddled in whispers. But Grayson wasn't one to back down. He sat at the bench, hands clenched around his gavel, eyes blazing as if to burn Bondi on the spot. This was no longer just a trial, it was personal. Grayson slammed his gavel hard, the sharp sound silencing the room. "Miss Bondi," he said, his voice low but cutting like a blade, carrying the authority of a seasoned judge, "you've just gravely insulted the dignity and authority of this court. I find you in contempt. Do you have any defense for this?" The crowd held its breath, all eyes on Bondi awaiting her response. She stepped forward, her heels clicking on the wooden floor, voice calm but brimming with unrelenting defiance. I don't need to defend myself to a judge who sold justice to Hawk Enterprises. I'm here to prosecute criminals, not play fool to your corruption. Shouts erupted from the gallery. Some clapped in approval, but most were stunned by her audacity. Grayson pounded his gavel harder, face flushed. Enough, he roared. You have no right to accuse me without proof. I order you to apologize immediately, or I'll have you detained for disrespect. Cameras zoomed in on Bondi, her face unwavering. She gave a faint, cold smile, the one that used to make opponents tremble when she was a Florida prosecutor. Detain me? You don't have that authority, Grayson. I'm the Attorney General, and I'm here to uphold the law, something you forgot long ago. The courtroom exploded again. Hawk Enterprises' lawyer, a wiry man in a gray suit, leapt from his seat. Your Honor, this is unprecedented overreach. Miss Bondi is turning this trial into a political circus. But Bondi didn't let them interrupt. She turned to the gallery, her voice ringing out. The circus is when a judge lets Hawk Enterprises kill thousands unpunished. I won't apologize for the truth. Scattered applause broke out, but Grayson wouldn't yield. He stood towering at the bench, voice thundering. Miss Bondi, retract your words, or I'll have the bailiffs escort you out. He pointed to two officers near the door, signaling them forward. The crowd gasped as they approached Bondi, but she didn't retreat. She raised a hand to halt them, then pulled a document from her briefcase. I have immunity as Attorney General, you can't detain me, Grayson. And if you try, I'll launch a federal investigation targeting you today. Grayson froze, hands still raised. The room erupted again, shouts and whispers spreading. Cameras caught Grayson's face shifting from rage to confusion in an instant. Bondi seized the moment, her voice sharper than ever. I have proof you took money from Hawk Enterprises. That recording's in my hands, and I won't stop until you're behind bars. Hawk Enterprises' lawyer rushed forward, voice trembling. This is slander. She can't make accusations without due process. But Bondi turned to him, eyes like daggers. I don't need process to speak the truth, and I'll prove it, not today, but at the next hearing. Applause swelled again, louder from Bondi's supporters in the crowd. Grayson sank into his chair, hands shaking on the gavel. He knew he was losing control. Court is adjourned, he shouted, voice wavering. We'll resume when Miss Bondi learns respect for this court. But Bondi didn't break eye contact. I respect justice, not you, she replied, then turned and walked out, leaving Grayson pale-faced amid the chaos. As Pam Bondi exited, her footsteps echoed through the frenzied crowd, cameras trailing her every move. Inside, John Grayson slumped at the bench, gripping his gavel until his knuckles whitened. Bondi's threat, I won't stop until you're behind bars, rang in his head. His face, no longer red with anger, turned cold and calculating. He knew Bondi wasn't bluffing. She had power, resolve, and worse, a lead on that damned recording. But Grayson wasn't one to surrender easily. He had allies, and it was time to use them. Blocks away, in a plush office at Top Hawk Enterprises headquarters, Victor Hawk sat behind an ebony desk, fingers tapping rhythmically. Hawk, a man in his 50s with silver-flecked hair and piercing eyes befitting his name, was the CEO of Hawk Enterprises. He didn't just run a transnational drug empire, he was a master manipulator who'd bought off everyone from local cops to top politicians. His phone buzzed, and Grayson's hoarse, urgent voice came through. Bondi just turned the trial into open war. She's got the recording, not clear, but enough to stir trouble. We need to act now. Hawk smirked, unsurprised. I saw it on TV. She's loud, but I've dealt with her kind before. He stood gazing out the window over the city. She thinks she's untouchable, but everyone has a weakness, Grayson. We just need to find hers. Grayson panted over the line. She threatened to investigate me. If the DOJ digs, I'm done, and so are you. Hawk scoffed. Calm down, I'll handle it. But you hold the line in court. Don't let her win again. A clandestine meeting followed in a windowless basement room at Hawk Enterprises headquarters. Grayson arrived, still in his judicial robe, face tense. Across from him sat Hawk and three others, two politicians opposed to the current administration, and a media mogul who could sway public opinion with a single call. Hawk stood at the center, voice low but commanding. Bondi's a bigger threat than we thought. She's not just after me, she wants to tear down the system we built. A gray-haired politician with a fake smile cut in. She's Trump's pick. Take her down, and that administration wobbles. Grayson nodded, but his eyes betrayed worry. She's got evidence, the recording. I don't know where they got it, but if it sharpens Hawk raised a hand to stop him. The recording's nothing if no one trusts her. We'll paint her as a lunatic, an attorney general abusing power, turning courts into political theater. The public will turn on her. The media mogul, a woman with fiery red hair, grinned wickedly. I can do that in 24 hours. A few headlines, some staged interviews, she'll be public enemy number one. Hawk nodded, but his eyes darkened. Not enough. She's stubborn, words won't break her. We need something stronger. He turned to Grayson. You stall the trial, toss out her evidence. I'll handle the rest. Grayson frowned. Handle how? Hawk stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. I've got people everywhere, cops, lawyers, even in the DOJ. Bondi'll get a message she can't ignore. Grayson swallowed hard, knowing Hawk wasn't kidding. He'd made rivals vanish with one call before. That night, the plan rolled out. Major media outlets once indirectly controlled by Hawk unleashed a barrage. Headlines blared across screens, Bondi oversteps, defies justice system. Articles branded her a wrecking ball, quoting anonymous sources claiming she acted for political gain, not justice. TV pundits clashed, a few hailing Bondi as a hero against corruption, but most framed her as dangerous, out of control. The public split. Some waved signs supporting her outside the courthouse, others bashed her online. Meanwhile, Hawk summoned another man, a tall, scarred figure who'd handled his special projects. Bondi needs a warning, Hawk said, handing him a thick envelope. Don't kill her, not yet. Just make her know she's not invincible. The man nodded, asking nothing, then melted into the dark. Hawk turned back to the TV, where Bondi's exit from court looped endlessly. You want war, Bondi, he muttered. I'll show you what war really is. Grayson back in his office couldn't sleep. He knew he was in deep. Taking Hawk's money wasn't a one-off, but years long. If Bondi found proof, his career and life would collapse. He opened a drawer, pulled out a whiskey bottle, and poured with shaking hands. She won't win, he told himself, but his voice lacked conviction. Bondi had roused the beast in Hawk, and Grayson knew when Hawk struck, no one escaped, but he also knew Bondi wasn't one to fold. Night had fallen when Pam Bondi drove home after a long day at the DOJ. The car radio buzzed with debate, Bondi versus Grayson, justice or overreach. But she switched it off, focusing on the empty road. She knew Grayson and Hawk Enterprises wouldn't sit idle after her public blow in court. The recording she'd mentioned, though not yet courtroom ready, had them rattled. But Bondi didn't expect their counterstrike to hit so fast, or to target her personal life. As she turned onto her quiet street, headlights swept the dark trees. Bondi parked outside her home, a modest but solid townhouse on Washington's outskirts. She stepped out, briefcase in hand, then froze. A white envelope jutted from the front door's mail slot. No stamp, no address. Her brows furrowed. She wasn't expecting mail. With a prosecutor's instinct honed by facing criminals, she cautiously opened the door, scanning around before picking it up. Inside was a single sheet, scrolled handwriting, "Back off, or die." Attached was a photo, Bondi exiting her car, alongside a distant shot of her family taken by a stalker. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed steady. It wasn't her first threat. In Florida, she'd gotten anonymous letters from drug gangs, but this was different. This was Hawk Enterprises, and she knew Victor Hawk was behind it. She tucked the note in her pocket, entered, locked the door tight, and dialed the FBI. "I need a team at my house now," she said, voice calm but firm. "Someone just sent a warning." 20 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up. Special Agent Sarah Klein, a lean, sharp investigator, stepped in with 2 FBI agents. Bondi knew Sarah from her early Washington days. She was the one Bondi trusted to dig into Hawk Enterprises. Sarah eyed the envelope on the kitchen table, then looked at Bondi. "They're playing dirty," she said, voice low. "This is Hawk's fingerprints. He loves these messages." Bondi nodded, sitting, hands clasped. "I know. Grayson panicked in court, and Hawk wants me scared off. They picked the wrong person." Sarah picked up the photo, studying it. "Taken 3 days ago. They've been tailing you. I'll have the team check for prints, but Hawk's not dumb, there won't be any." Bondi smirked. "I don't need prints to know who's behind it. This is payback for mentioning the recording." Sarah frowned. "That tape's not enough to nail Grayson yet. Without more, they'll crush this case in court." Bondi stood gazing out the window into the dark. "Then we dig deeper. Grayson, Hawk, all of them." She turned back, voice razor sharp. "I want your team on Grayson's every move, accounts, phone, everything. Hawk doesn't work alone, and Grayson's the weak link. Break him, and Hawk's whole system falls." Sarah nodded, but her eyes showed concern. "You sure they've targeted your family? This is beyond the courtroom now." Bondi met her gaze. "My family's not nearby, they just want me spooked. But I don't back down, ever." That night, Bondi didn't sleep. She sat in her living room, dim light spilling over Hawk Enterprises files from her office. The recording, Grayson's voice on a payment, was her ace, but not strong enough. She needed clearer proof, and she knew Hawk wouldn't stop at this threat. Sure enough, the next morning, a major TV network invited her to speak live. Bondi agreed instantly. If Hawk wanted a media game, she'd play it her way. Before the cameras, Bondi appeared in a deep blue suit, her blonde hair tied back neatly, her eyes showing no trace of fear. "Yesterday, I challenged Judge Grayson because I believe he's protecting Hawk Enterprises, a syndicate killing people with drugs," she said, her voice resonating through the microphone. "Today, I received threats targeting my family, but I have a message for Hawk and Grayson: I fear no enemy in the shadows or in court. The truth will come out." The cameras captured every word, viewers at home holding their breath. Bondi had just turned the threat into a weapon, a public dare. In Hawk Enterprises' office, Victor Hawk watched the broadcast, his hand tightening around his glass. "She doesn't know when to stop," he muttered. Across the city, Grayson watched too, his trembling hands sweating. Bondi hadn't just survived the threat, she'd turned it into a counterstrike. But Hawk wasn't surprised, he'd anticipated her stubbornness. "She wants evidence," he said to his assistant over the phone. "Fine, but next time, it won't just be a note." The federal courtroom was packed when Pam Bondi entered, the air thick as before a storm. After the personal threat and her defiant TV statement, the nation's eyes were glued to her. Today was a critical hearing in the Hawk Enterprises case, the trial Bondi aimed to turn into a knockout blow against Judge John Grayson and the criminal syndicate behind him. Live media cameras panned the room, spectators whispered, and Hawk Enterprises lawyers sat tense at the right-hand table. Grayson, on the bench, maintained a stern facade, but his hands gripped the gavel tightly, his eyes betraying unease. Bondi, as the Justice Department's lead prosecutor, stood before the counsel table, her deep blue suit accentuating her resolute stance. She locked eyes with Grayson, unflinching. "Today, we're here to try Hawk Enterprises for drug trafficking and bribery," she began, her voice ringing out, "but I'm also here to expose a bigger truth, a judge who's betrayed justice." Murmurs rippled through the room. Grayson banged his gavel. "Miss Bondi, I've warned you about baseless accusations," he shouted, but his voice quavered, a sign Bondi didn't miss. She gave a faint smile, stepping forward. "Baseless? We'll see." Bondi turned to the court clerk. "I request to present additional evidence." Hawk Enterprises' lawyer, a wiry man named Richard Teller, shot up. "Your Honor, this is an illegal maneuver. Miss Bondi can't introduce unannounced evidence." Grayson nodded, his tone icy. "I agree. Miss Bondi, your request is denied." But Bondi didn't back down. She pulled a small USB from her briefcase, holding it high for all to see. "This isn't just evidence against Hawk Enterprises, it's against you, Grayson." The courtroom detonated. Spectators shouted, cameras zoomed in on Bondi and Grayson. He pounded his gavel repeatedly, face flushed. "I won't let you turn this court into a circus." But Bondi pressed on. She faced the gallery, voice steely. "I have a recording, Grayson taking money from Victor Hawk to shield Hawk Enterprises, and today, I'll play it for the world to hear." Before Grayson could react, Bondi handed the USB to Sarah Klein, her loyal FBI agent who'd been investigating alongside her. Sarah swiftly plugged it into the courtroom projector, ignoring the yells from Hawk Enterprises' side. Static crackled through the speakers, then Grayson's voice sharpened. "Hawk transferred 500 grand to an offshore account. I'll make sure the case doesn't go far." Next came Victor Hawk's low, cold voice, "Good, keep Bondi quiet, whatever it takes." The courtroom erupted into chaos. Spectators leapt up, some yelling corruption, while Hawk Enterprises lawyers lunged for the projector, trying to stop it, but Sarah blocked them, hand on her holster as a warning. Bondi stood amid the storm, eyes locked on Grayson. "Anything to say?" she asked, voice icy. Grayson stood trembling, finger pointing at Bondi. "This is fabricated. You have no right to play this without verification." But his voice faltered, and the crowd no longer believed him. Boos rang out. A spectator threw a water bottle at the bench, missing Grayson's head. He screamed at the bailiffs, "Arrest her now. Miss Bondi has gone too far." 2 officers advanced, but Bondi raised a hand, voice commanding. "Don't touch me. As Attorney General, I hereby suspend Judge Grayson's authority under Title 18 of Federal Code on suspicion of corruption." The courtroom went wild. Grayson roared, "You have no such power." But Bondi cut him off. "I have every power when a judge threatens justice. The FBI takes over from here." She turned to Sarah, ordering sharply, "Escort him out." Sarah nodded, leading 3 more FBI agents charging the bench. Grayson recoiled, shouting, "You can't do this. I'm a federal judge." But the agents didn't hesitate, they dragged him down, his arms flailing uselessly, black robe flapping wildly. Cameras captured Grayson being hauled from the courtroom, face ashen, mouth still spewing nonsense. Bondi stood center room, eyes fixed on the door where Grayson was dragged away. Teller rushed forward, voice shaking. "This is a violation of law. We'll sue you." Bondi turned to him, voice calm but cutting. "Go ahead, but I'd worry about your client first. Victor Hawk won't escape this." Teller stepped back, pale, knowing Bondi wasn't bluffing. Live broadcasts aired it all, headlines flashing, "Bondi exposes corrupt judge." Viewers split. Some hailed her a hero, others claimed she'd wrecked the justice system. But Bondi didn't care. She faced the courtroom gallery, voice rising over the noise. Hawk Enterprises and Grayson thought they could buy justice. Today, I proved them wrong. This isn't over, I'll pursue it to the end. As Grayson was escorted out, Bondi signaled the clerk. Court's adjourned until a new judge is assigned. I'll return with evidence against Hawk Enterprises, and this time, no one stops me. She left the counsel table, exiting the courtroom amid applause and shouts. Cameras trailed her, capturing the fearless woman who just landed a decisive blow against her greatest foe. In Hawk Enterprises' office, Victor Hawk watched the TV, his grip shattering his glass. "She's gone too far," he snarled at his assistant. "Call my team, we stop her now." Across the city, Grayson sat in an FBI vehicle, head bowed, sweat dripping. He knew it was over, but he also knew Hawk wouldn't let Bondi win easily. Afternoon light faded as Pam Bondi stepped from the courthouse, camera noise and crowd shouts echoing behind. She just landed her knockout, airing the recording, toppling Grayson in open court, but she knew the cost wasn't done. Victor Hawk and Hawk Enterprises wouldn't fold easily. As she approached her waiting SUV, unease stirred, a prosecutor's instinct from facing the worst criminals. She glanced around, seeing only the crowd and flashing lights. Then, abruptly, a deafening shot rang out. The crowd screamed, scattering as a bullet grazed the car door, striking the windshield, cracking it like a web. Bondi ducked instinctively, pulling Sarah Klein, her escort, down with her. "Get down," she yelled. A second shot rang out, hitting the car's side, kicking up dust. The FBI agent inside drew his gun, shouting into the radio, "Attack. Call backup now." The crowd fled in chaos, media cameras capturing the smoky mayhem. Bondi looked up, eyes sharp amid the danger. "Hawk," she muttered, "this wasn't random, it was retaliation." The FBI sealed the area within minutes, but the shooter vanished into the crowd. Bondi stood, brushing dust from her suit, rejecting Sarah's plea to seek safety. "I don't run," she said, voice firm. "They want me scared, they don't know who I am." Sarah frowned, surveying the scene with other agents. This was a pro. No casings, no trace. Hawk sending a message. Bondi nodded, eyes darkening. "Message received, but I'll hit back twice as hard." As the FBI probed the attack, news spread like wildfire. Live TV showed Bondi calm amid chaos, headlines blaring, Attorney General attacked outside court. The public divided further. Some dubbed her unbreakable hero, but Hawk's media puppets accused her of endangering the public with reckless courtroom stunts. Yet Hawk didn't stop there. He knew bullets alone wouldn't fell Bondi. He needed to strike at her power. At Hawk Enterprises headquarters, Victor Hawk sat in his office, eyes icy on the TV screen. The broken glass from Bondi's recording reveal was replaced, but his hands still clenched tight. "She survived," he growled at his assistant, a short man with nervous eyes. "I said no killing, just scare her." The assistant nodded rapidly. "The shooter followed orders, sir, but she's not scared, she's stronger on TV." Hawk slammed the desk. "Then we hit what she can't ignore, her seat as Attorney General." Hawk summoned allies, 2 opposition politicians in Congress on his payroll for years. The meeting ran via video, their faces on a large screen in a sealed room. "Bondi just made Grayson a public traitor," Hawk said, voice low but menacing. "If she keeps going, our whole system's done. I need Congress to investigate, remove her." A gray-haired politician smirked wickedly. "Easy. She suspended Grayson without process, that's abuse of power. We'll haul her in for a hearing now." Hours later, Congress announced Bondi faced an emergency hearing for legal violations in the Grayson case. News exploded, Hawk's media amplifying it. Bondi could lose post after court attack. Hawk leaned back, smirking with satisfaction. He knew Bondi was tough, but if she lost her AG seat, the Hawk Enterprises case would dissolve. It was a double blow, threatening her life and her career. But Bondi didn't sit still. At the Justice Department, she held an urgent meeting with Sarah Klein and her team. The bullet marks on her car lingered in her mind, but she wouldn't let them break her. "Hawk thinks guns and Congress will make me back off," she said, voice steely. "They're wrong. Sarah, what do we have on Grayson?" Sarah slid a file across. "We traced an offshore account, 500 grand from Hawk Enterprises, just like the recording, but it's heavily encrypted, needs time to crack." Bondi nodded. "No time. Congress wants me grilled. I'll turn it into an opportunity." She stood, facing her team. "Hawk hit me outside court because he's scared. He knows we're close to the truth. I want every Hawk Enterprises transaction, banks, emails, anything. If Congress wants me to testify, I'll bring evidence with me." Sarah nodded, but worry showed in her eyes. "You sure Hawk won't stop? The shooting was just the start." Bondi gazed out the window, eyes cold. "I survived drug cartels in Florida. Hawk's not the first to want me dead, and he won't be the last." Meanwhile, the media tide shifted. Some independent reporters, free of Hawk's grip, dug into Grayson. They interviewed court witnesses, replayed the recording, and asked, if Bondi's right, who else backs Hawk Enterprises? Public support tilted toward her. Small protests grew outside the DOJ with signs, "Support Bondi, stop corruption." But Congress's pressure loomed. The hearing neared, and Bondi knew Hawk was betting everything to bring her down. She sat at her desk, reviewing the video one last time. Hawk's voice echoed in her mind, "Use other means, leave no trace." She knew the shooting was just the beginning, Hawk wouldn't stop until she was gone. But Bondi wasn't afraid. She'd faced drug gangs in Florida, threats with knives and guns. Hawk wasn't her first would-be killer. She tucked the USB in her pocket, eyes icy. "He thinks I'll back off," she muttered, "but I'll make him regret targeting me." Sarah stepped in, bringing fresh news. "We just uncovered another transaction, $2 million from Hawk Enterprises to a Swiss account, transferred right after the shooting. It could be payment for the gunman." Bondi nodded. "Good. Package it with the video, I'll take it all to Congress." She stood, ready for her biggest fight yet. After relentless investigation, Pam Bondi entered a different courtroom. This time, not to face Grayson, but to testify in a new trial against him and Victor Hawk. Evidence from Sarah Klein, the video of Hawk ordering silence, Bondi and the $2 million transfer post-shooting had been vetted by the FBI enough to prosecute both. The courtroom was packed, live media cameras panning everywhere, the tension like a string about to snap. Bondi sat in the witness row, her deep blue suit still sharp, her gaze unwavering. She knew this was her chance to end it all. The new judge, a middle-aged woman named Margaret Evans, banged her gavel to start the trial. Grayson, now a defendant, sat at the left table, his judicial robe replaced by a drab gray prison jumpsuit. He kept his head down, avoiding Bondi's eyes, his face gaunt after days in custody. To the right was Victor Hawk, still cold in a black suit, but his hawk-like eyes betrayed strain. The prosecutor, a man handpicked by Bondi, stood. "We call Miss Pam Bondi as a witness," he declared. Bondi took the stand, her testimony ringing clear. "I was in court earlier to prosecute Hawk Enterprises for drug trafficking and bribery. Judge Grayson tried to obstruct by dismissing evidence because he'd taken money from Victor Hawk." She paused, staring at Grayson. "The recording I revealed shows him agreeing to protect Hawk Enterprises for $500,000. Then I was attacked with gunfire, an act Hawk ordered, confirmed by video from the Justice Department." The projector flared up, replaying the clip. Hawk's cold voice echoed, "If Congress can't stop her, use other means." The courtroom erupted into chaos. Spectators whispered. Hawk's lawyer, Richard Teller, leapt up. "This is circumstantial. It doesn't prove my client ordered the shooting." But the prosecutor countered, presenting the $2 million transaction from Hawk Enterprises post-shooting. "This is payment for the gunman, wired right after Miss Bondi survived," he said, voice firm. Hawk smirked, but stayed silent. He knew he was losing ground. Bondi continued her testimony, voice calm but cutting. "Hawk Enterprises doesn't just kill with drugs, they bribe the system to escape. Grayson was part of that network. I was threatened, attacked, but I didn't stop because justice can't be bought." Scattered applause broke out from the gallery, some shouting, "Justice for Bondi." Judge Evans banged her gavel for order, but her eyes met Bondi's with clear respect. The trial stretched 3 days, but the evidence was overwhelming. The FBI presented more, hundreds of emails between Grayson and Hawk's assistant, offshore accounts holding millions from Hawk Enterprises, and a list of bribed politicians, including the opposition senator from the video. Grayson didn't fight, he slumped, confessing under pressure. Hawk, by contrast, stayed silent, his fiery gaze fixed on Bondi as if to swallow her whole, but he had no way out. Judge Evans delivered the verdict on day 4. "John Grayson, you're convicted of bribery and obstructing justice, 20 years without parole." Grayson's head dropped, and he was led out amid crowd murmurs. Then came Hawk. "Victor Hawk, you're convicted of drug trafficking, bribery, and ordering an attack, life in prison." Hawk stood, handcuffed, turning to Bondi one last time. "You won't rest easy," he snarled before being dragged off. Bondi didn't reply, she just watched, her icy stare saying, "Try me." Hawk Enterprises collapsed soon after. The FBI seized the syndicate's assets, arresting dozens of Hawk's operatives nationwide. The media went wild, Bondi takes down crime empire. Public support swung firmly to her, protests outside the DOJ swelling, hoisting signs, "Bondi, Guardian of Justice." But Congress still pressed. Some opposition senators, despite losing allies like Hawk, pushed the hearing to remove her, accusing her of procedural violations in suspending Grayson. Bondi returned to her office post-trial, sitting across from Sarah Klein. "We beat Grayson and Hawk," Sarah said, voice relieved, "but Congress won't let up." Bondi nodded, holding the evidence USB. "They want a hearing. Fine. I'll bring this and the list of politicians Hawk paid. If they want to play, I'll play to the end." Sarah smiled, the worry flickering. Hawk said, "You won't rest easy. He might have people out there." Bondi smirked. "He's in for life. I don't fear empty threats." That night's TV broadcast showed Grayson and Hawk being led away, interspersed with Bondi's unyielding exit from court. The public hailed her as an anti-corruption icon, but some articles, stirred by Hawk's remaining allies, still bashed her as power-hungry. Bondi watched in her office, eyes cold. She knew this victory was huge, but not final. Hawk Enterprises was down, Grayson fallen, but their network ran deeper than she'd thought. She tucked the USB into her briefcase, prepping for the next fight in Congress. "This isn't over," she muttered, but today, justice won, and Bondi held the flag. Days after Grayson and Victor Hawk's sentencing, Pam Bondi strode into the Capitol hearing room, her gaze icy and unshaken. Live media cameras tracked her every step, the air heavy with charges of abuse of power from the Grayson suspension. She wore her familiar deep blue suit, clutching a briefcase with the USB evidence that not only toppled Hawk Enterprises but also its web of allies. Congress wanted her ousted, but Bondi wasn't here to lose, she was here to fight. The hearing's chair, Senator Robert Callahan, a gray-haired man from the video with Hawk, banged his gavel to start. "Miss Bondi," he said, voice low but hostile, "you're accused of breaching legal process by suspending Judge Grayson without procedure. What's your defense?" The room buzzed with murmurs from senators and spectators. Bondi stood tall, locking eyes with Callahan. "I don't defend," she replied, voice steely. "I acted to protect justice, something Congress should do instead of shielding men like Grayson." Murmurs spread. Callahan slammed his gavel, face flushed. "You dare accuse us? You've overstepped as Attorney General. Bondi didn't blink. She opened her briefcase, pulled out the USB, and held it high. This is proof, not just Grayson taking bribes from Hawk Enterprises, but Victor Hawk ordering my attack after I exposed him. And more. She turned to Callahan, eyes like daggers. Some in this room took Hawk's money, too. I have the list. The hearing room exploded. Senators shouted protests, spectators whispered, cameras zoomed on Bondi and Callahan. He leapt up, voice trembling. This is slander. You've no right to make baseless claims. But Bondi didn't budge. She handed the USB to the congressional clerk, demanding the Hawk-Callahan video be played. The big screen lit up, Hawk's voice clear, I'll push the hearing, she won't have a seat left. Callahan paled, stammering, that's fabricated. But the room didn't buy it. Boos rang out, corruption. Bondi seized the moment, her voice cutting through the noise. I suspended Grayson because he sold justice to Hawk Enterprises, and I don't regret it. Congress wants to probe me. Probe those who took Hawk's money before pointing at me. She slapped the list of Hawk Enterprises transactions on the table, dozens of opposition senators exposed. Applause erupted from the gallery, some senators bowed their heads, knowing they'd been unmasked. Callahan pounded his gavel repeatedly, trying to regain control. This hearing isn't for you to attack us. But Bondi cut in, it's to defend justice, something you forgot when you took Hawk's cash. After 2 tense hours of debate, Congress voted, not enough for a majority to remove Bondi. She was cleared, her Attorney General seat secure. Pam Bondi stepped out of the Capitol post-hearing, sunlight hitting her face, highlighting her unshakable resolve. Media swarmed, mics thrust high, but she paused only once before the cheering crowd. Justice belongs to the people, not the powerful, she said, voice booming through the loudspeaker. Today, we prove that. Applause roared, signs reading, Bondi, Guardian of Justice raised high amid a sea of supporters. From Grayson to Hawk, from Hawk Enterprises to corrupt senators, she'd taken them all down, a victory no one foresaw. Back in her office, Bondi sat at her desk, dim lights spilling over neatly stacked files. TV replayed her Capitol stand, headlines flashing, Bondi defeats corruption plot, unbeatable AG. The public hailed her as an anti-villain icon, from families ravaged by fentanyl to everyday folks fed up with a rotten system. But not everyone cheered. Some opposition senators, exposed on Hawk's list, still railed on TV, branding her a dangerous overreacher. Bondi switched off the screen, smirking. She didn't need everyone's approval, she just needed truth on her side. Sarah Klein walked in, a rare smile on her face. You did it, she said, setting a hot coffee on the desk. Grayson's got 20 years, Hawk's in for life, his empire's dust. Congress won't touch you now. Bondi nodded, but her eyes stayed cold. It's a big win, Sarah, but Hawk's network runs deeper than we know. He's done, but others are still out there. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? Bondi didn't answer right away. She opened a drawer, pulling out an envelope, just delivered, no stamp, no address. Inside was a single sheet, scrolled handwriting, it's not over, Bondi. No signature, no clue, but she knew it came from someone in the shadows, a remnant of Hawk's power. She handed it to Sarah, voice calm. They think I'll stop. They're wrong. Sarah eyed the envelope, worry flashing, but Bondi just smiled coldly. The story, Pam Bondi refuses to stand for corrupt judge. What she does next shocked the courtroom, mirrors real issues in today's U.S. society. Corruption in political and judicial systems, manipulation by powerful forces, and the fight for justice between individuals and the establishment. In the tale, Pam Bondi faces Judge Grayson and Victor Hawk, figures symbolizing high-level corruption and economic abuse, not unlike reality where financial scandals and bribery surface often in America, like the Jeffrey Epstein case or allegations tied to political lobbying. Bondi's shooting and congressional pressure reflect the dangers truth seekers face, akin to investigative journalists or officials challenging power in the U.S. today. Her use of evidence to topple Grayson and Hawk shows the strength of truth and tech in exposing wrongs, a tactic movements like #MeToo or Black Lives Matter have used for change. The lesson from this story is in an unjust society, resolve and preparation are key to winning. Bondi didn't just lean on emotion, she relied on hard proof, Grayson's recording, offshore accounts, Hawk's video to defeat her foes. Americans today can apply this by arming themselves with knowledge, gathering facts, and standing up to wrong no matter how strong the opponent. When Bondi refused to bow to Grayson or flinch at Hawk's gunfire, she taught that courage isn't fearlessness, it's acting despite fear. Plus, the new thread at the end reminds us justice is a long haul, like in America where issues like inequality or corruption won't vanish overnight. Stay persistent, united, and ready because, like Bondi, you can shift the system. This isn't just a fictional story, it's a reflection of the very real battles being fought every day to hold power accountable and to ensure that justice isn't just a concept, but a tangible reality. It highlights the importance of vigilance, critical thinking, and the courage to stand up against injustice, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Remember, change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires a collective effort, a commitment to truth, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It's about supporting those who are on the front lines, amplifying their voices, and demanding accountability from those in positions of authority. It's about understanding that every action, no matter how small, can contribute to a larger movement for change. The pursuit of justice is a continuous journey, not a destination. It demands unwavering dedication, resilience in the face of adversity, and the belief that a better world is possible. So, be informed, be engaged, and be the change you wish to see in the world. Don't let fear or apathy silence your voice, instead, use your knowledge, your resources, and your passion to make a difference. If you don't quit. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel 30 Minds to follow the justice battles of figures like Pam Bondi. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video to uncover more dark secrets waiting to be exposed.